Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water.
A kid cracks his skull open and we've been singing about it to toddlers for 300 years now. Over 2 billion views on YouTube, taught in every single kindergarten across America without any question at all. And nobody stops to think about what we're actually saying when we sing this song. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. That's how the rhyme goes. Sounds cute, right? Just two kids doing chores on a sunny afternoon. Nothing wrong with that at all. But here's the thing, this rhyme might be connected to a real double death in 1697, or the public beheading of a king and queen during the French Revolution, which changed history forever then. Or in this one's gonna mess with you, an ancient ritual involving child sacrifice to the old gods. So yeah, let's actually break down what we've been singing to our kids all this time right now. Now, here's the part that really started messing with my head when I started researching this whole thing. Why would anyone climb up a hill just to get water? That doesn't make any logical sense here. Like basic physics, water flows downhill. That's literally how gravity works, and everyone knows this simple scientific fact. Every well, every stream, every river, they're all down in the valleys where water naturally collects and flows. Nobody in the history of civilization has ever built a well at the top of a hill anywhere. So what were Jack and Jill actually doing up there if they weren't really fetching water that day? Some historians believe fetching water was just a cover story to hide what they were really doing there. That Jack and Jill were probably sneaking off for some private time, if you know what I mean. And this leads us straight into the first dark theory about what this rhyme is really all about. In a tiny village called Kilmersdon in Somerset, England, locals swear this story is real and actually happened. They claim the rhyme is based on an actual tragedy from 1697 in their small village. A young unmarried couple, let's call them Jack and Jill, used to meet secretly on a nearby hill. The girl got pregnant out of wedlock, which back then was basically social suicide and brought great shame. Then one day a boulder came loose from nearby quarry and struck the guy in the head hard. He died instantly right there while she watched the whole thing happen, unable to do anything to help. She completely broke down mentally and couldn't recover from the trauma of watching her lover die that way. A few days later, she died while giving birth to their child, leaving the baby all alone, orphaned. The baby survived and was raised by the village, known as Jill's son, and cared for by everyone. Fun fact, the surname Gilson is still super common in that area to this day, which is interesting. There's literally a hill in Kilmersdon called Jack and Jill Hill with a memorial plaque honoring their memory. They put it up in 2020, over 300 years after the tragedy, finally recognizing the story. But honestly, that's not even the darkest interpretation of this rhyme. There are even more disturbing theories out. Some historians believe this whole thing is actually political. Satire in disguise, hidden behind innocent-sounding children's words. And it's about two of the most famous executions in European history that changed the course of nations. King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette of France, who ruled during the Revolution and lost everything. Yeah, the let-them-eat-cake lady, that Marie Antoinette, who became a symbol of royal excess then. Let's look at these lyrics through this particular lens. And it gets kinda creepy when you see it. Jack was a common slang term for any ordinary guy representing a king who lost all respect completely. Jill represents Marie Antoinette, literally the most hated woman in France at the time, despised by all people. Went up the hill, they climbed to the absolute peak of power and wealth above everyone else then, living in ridiculous luxury at Versailles, while regular people were literally starving to death in the streets below. To fetch water, a peasant chore, showing just how out of touch they were with ordinary people's lives. And then everything came crashing down on them hard. When the revolution finally came for them at last, Jack fell down and broke his crown. Here's what actually happened in history during those revolutionary dark days. January 21st, 1793, XVI walked up to the guillotine in Paris slowly. The blade dropped and his head literally rolled onto the ground in front of the cheering crowd there. His crown, both his royal crown and his physical skull, fell at the exact same moment in history. And Jill came tumbling after 9 months later. Same thing happened to the Queen following her husband's fate. Marie Antoinette was also beheaded following her husband to death, meeting the same end on the guillotine stage. If this theory is true, this was never a children's song at all, but something far more sinister. It was a victory anthem for revolutionaries celebrating the death of their enemies, the king and queen fallen. And somehow over time it ended up in nurseries all around the world, sung by innocent little children. We literally might be teaching our kids a song, celebrating public executions without even realizing what we're doing. Okay, but here's something that most people don't even know exists, and it's going to surprise you completely. There's actually a second verse to this rhyme, and it's even more disturbing than the first verse is. Up Jack got, and home did trot as fast as he could caper, running home for help quickly, to old Dame Dob, who patched his knob with vinegar and brown paper as the old treatment went. So, according to this verse, Jack got up, ran home, and some old lady fixed his skull somehow. And how exactly did she fix his cracked open head that was bleeding and broken from the fall? With vinegar and brown paper that was literally the treatment plan they had back in those medieval times. This was actual medieval folk medicine that people genuinely believed in and used to treat serious injuries then. They thought vinegar could disinfect wounds and paper could stop the bleeding, which sounds absurd to us today. But think about it for a second. This kid just cracked his skull wide open from the fall. His brain might have been literally exposed, and the cure is vinegar and paper. That's absolutely not healing. That's not healing anybody, that's preparing a body for burial, making the corpse presentable for the funeral service. Some analysts actually believe this verse describes preparing a corpse for the grave, not healing a living person. Vinegar was used to slow down decay and mask the smell of decomposition in bodies before burial time. Brown paper was used to wrap wounds before placing a body in a coffin to prepare for burial. Jack wasn't saved by Dame Dob. Jack was being prepped for death and his final resting place below. All right, now we're going down the absolute deepest level of this rabbit hole where things get really strange. Some folklore researchers don't think Jack and Jill were people at all, but something entirely different and cosmic. They believe Jack and Jill actually represent celestial bodies, like in the sky, the moon and its patterns. In ancient Norse mythology, there's a story about two children named Huki and Bill who met a fate. Two kids who were kidnapped by the moon god while fetching water from a well in the night. Huki and Bill say it out loud. Jack and Jill hear the phonetic similarity between those ancient names. According to these researchers, that connection is absolutely not a coincidence, but a deliberate link to ancient times. They say this rhyme is actually a remnant of an ancient pagan ritual practice from thousands of years. A ritual that possibly involved child sacrifice to the moon god itself in ceremonies held on hilltops then. Going up the hill meant climbing the sacrificial altar in ancient times where the rituals would take place. Fetching water referred to holy water used in the ritual ceremony as part of the sacred rites performed. Falling down and breaking the crown was the actual death of the sacrifice, the moment life was taken. If this theory is true, every single time we sing this song to our kids, we're doing something. We're unknowingly reenacting an ancient human sacrifice ritual from thousands of years ago without even knowing what it means. And here's the creepiest part we do it with: a smile on our faces, singing happily to children. This is the question that honestly keeps bugging me more than anything else about these nursery rhymes here. Why are so many nursery rhymes this dark and disturbing when they're meant for innocent little children today? And Jack and Jill is definitely not the only example here. There are many more just like this. Ring Around the Rosie, supposedly about the Black Plague. That killed millions of people across Europe in history. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down literally means everyone dies together from the plague that swept through nations. London Bridge is falling down, possibly connected to burying children alive in foundations as sacrifices for strong structures. They allegedly did that as a human sacrifice to make structures more stable and protect them from collapse. Rockabye Baby literally describes a baby falling from a treetop to its death on the ground. Down will come baby cradle and all straight to the ground, falling from the branch into the darkness. Why do songs about death and tragedy become the lullabies we sing to children before they fall asleep? There's actually a psychological theory that explains this whole phenomenon and why we do this to our kids. A study found that nursery rhymes contain 52 violent scenes per hour on average, which is shocking. Compare that to TV, which has only 4.8 violent scenes per hour, much less than rhymes. We're literally exposing our kids to 10 times more violence through these cute little songs than television shows. Humans have always feared death, loss, and things we can't control since the beginning of human existence here. And one way we cope with that fear is by domesticating it, making it familiar and less scary. We turn tragedy into song, death into a catchy little tune that we can sing without feeling afraid. We teach kids that death isn't scary. Look, we can even sing about it together happily with smiles. But there's also a much darker interpretation of all this that makes you think about what we're doing. Maybe these rhymes were designed to prepare children for the brutal reality of life and death in world. In medieval times, children died constantly from plague, famine, and war, taking young lives without any mercy at all. Nearly half of all kids didn't make it past their 5th birthday, which is a devastating statistic indeed. These songs reminded them that life is fragile and death is always lurking nearby, waiting for its moment. No one, not even innocent little children, can ever escape that fate that comes for everyone eventually someday. And here's what really gets me: we haven't stopped passing this down through all the generations until now. Jack and Jill nursery rhyme videos have over 2 billion combined views on YouTube alone, which is massive. That's more people than the entire population of China and Europe combined watching these videos around the world. Every single day, millions of parents are playing this song for their toddlers without knowing the dark history, without any idea that they might be singing about beheadings, skull fractures, or ancient rituals from long ago. Generation after generation, we keep passing down these songs without questioning them or thinking about what they mean. Like some kind of cultural muscle memory we can't shake off no matter how much time passes on. So Jack and Jill went up the hill too, kids climbing together on that fateful day long ago. Maybe they were just victims of a tragic accident. On a random afternoon, nothing more than bad luck. Maybe they represent a king and queen who got their heads chopped off in public during the revolution. Maybe they were children sacrificed to ancient gods thousands of years ago in rituals we've long forgotten now. Or maybe, just maybe, they're just 2 fictional characters in a simple little song with no deeper meaning. But that's exactly the unsettling power of nursery rhymes. They make us wonder about what's hidden in them. They hide darkness in daylight, death wrapped in laughter, horror tucked inside melody sung with innocent, happy voices. And the craziest part, we've been doing this for over 300 years, passing it down through generations. Your great-great-great-grandparents sang this, your grandparents sang this, and their parents before them did too. Your parents sang it to you, and now you're probably singing it to your own kids, continuing tradition. Next time you hear a nursery rhyme, just pause for a second and think about what you're hearing. Listen a little closer to what those words are actually saying behind the sweet melody and happy tune. Because behind every sweet melody, there might be echoes of something much darker hidden in plain sight there. Something we've been singing for centuries without ever really understanding why we do it or what it means. Drop a comment below. What nursery rhyme do you want me to investigate next? Let me know, please. And if this video messed with your head, hit that subscribe button and join us for more content. Because trust me, this is just the beginning of the rabbit hole and there's much more to discover.